Thank you for joining us today on Technology Times TV. Before we begin the conversation, could you introduce yourself to our audience and share a bit of your work in the media space?
Okay, my name is Nkanu Egbe. I'm a media practitioner of 40 plus years. I came into this media space in November 1982. I started from broadcasting, and then I went into print journalism in 1986. And after that, I went into marketing communications, public relations, and advertising. In the new millennium, I decided to come back into print. Um, well, I started as a print media consultant, and then eventually I decided to get into print operations in full. And so when COVID came up, I launched Lagos Metropolitan because I felt that there was a need to educate the people on the data and all the nuances that were connected with the COVID 19 crisis. So basically, I came into the space to quieten the noise that followed COVID 19. And so in April 2020, Lagos Metropolitan came on board. So I'm the publisher and editor of Lagos Metropolitan.
Our conversation will explore digital transformation in the Nigerian media. My first question is, with over 40 years experience in the media, how would you assess the state of digital transformation in the Nigerian media from the early times to now?
Very interesting question. When I came into the media, we had what you call Studer reel-to-reel tape machines. Um, that was in radio broadcasting. And of course, in television, you had similar tape machines, um, and then of course, eventually they now went to video cassette. Not the normal video cassette that you had VHS. No, they had more advanced video cassettes in television. So I saw all of that, and in the 80s, as I joined print journalism, I noticed that technology was beginning to creep in even more um, in print, for instance. We began to see concepts like desktop publishing. This was in the late 80s. Before then, we're just used to cut and paste. In broadcast, before then, we're used to splicing tapes to do our edit. But now we've moved forward. Um, from desktop publishing, we are talking about artificial intelligence. At the turn of the millennium, the concept in media generally, whether it was broadcast or print, was convergence, meaning that you had to combine print with digital and possibly broadcast. So you weren't just a print operator or a broadcast operator. You combined everything. So the concept of convergence, came up, and there was that need for media practitioners to move in that direction. Um, Unfortunately, in Nigeria, it wasn't exactly so. People still stayed in their old analog ways and all of that. But gradually, they're coming up. There's the urgency of the moment has made people begin to leapfrog from where they were to the new ways of doing things. So that's, in a nutshell, for me, is the story of digital transformation in the media. Television houses are no longer using just analog linear editing. They do have digital editing suites that they use. Um, Cameras are no longer your analog cameras. Even the smartphone can be used as a news gathering item. So there has been a great transformation in the media in the 40 years that I've experienced the media.
In your experience across print, broadcast, and online, which medium has been most significantly impacted by digital disruption and how?
Print. The print media has been the most impacted. And I would say this, the print media had the opportunity to be ahead of the rest of the gang in terms of digital transformation, but somehow we lost it. When desktop publishing came up in the late 80s, most media houses were still used to the old way of cutting and pasting. I'm talking about print houses now. They were still used to that old way of IBM typesetting and then or IBM composition, and then you take the bromide, you cut, and then you paste, and the graphic people now put together the stuff. Layouts were done on layout sheets and all of that. It took a long time, for people to transform, to the new way of things. And even when they did try, they were using the wrong software. Let me give you an instance. Everybody knows about Corel Draw. That is where you do your graphics. It's quite heavy in terms of memory and all of that. But you won't believe this. A lot of newspapers were actually planning their entire makeup on Corel Draw. Corel Draw was just for graphics. The actual page makeup software, they ignored, like your PageMaker. Oh, by the way, I use Outdoors PageMaker 1.1. That now became InDesign. There was also Quark Express. There were different composition software which existed, but these newspaper houses they didn't take advantage of those things. The sub desk now gave way to desktop planners, and that is how the print lost it. And so, of course, the print is now trying to catch up, but they have lost so much over the years that it almost is like the most challenged, the most well, if you are looking at it looking at it in terms of say climate change, in climate change terms, they're the most they're almost going into extinction. But of course, you know that the written word has always been, or the printed word has always been, the basis for new civilization. Let me give you an instance. Outdoors PageMaker was created or formed in the early 80s. And it was actually designed by the editor of Minnesota Daily News. He, with Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Steve Jobs was at the time the CEO of Apple Computers, and Steve Wozniak was his COO. And then you had the fellow from Adobe, I've forgotten his name now. They were the ones who formed the typesets for Outdoors PageMaker. Now, Paul Bernard was the editor of Minnesota Daily News. So the PageMaker was created for the newsroom. Nigerians did not take advantage of that innovation. But I'm not going to call the names of the media houses, but I think what did happen was that those who knew a bit of computer, software, quickly introduced them to a graphic software called Corel Draw. Now, Corel Draw is a graphic program. You don't use it for page makeup. You use it for creating graphics. Although, of course, there are some page makeup elements, but because of the weight of the memory it uses, you don't use it for page makeup. Now, meanwhile, the PageMaker guys had been developing the PageMaker to the extent that they had introduced, composition, where you could typeset your stuff, so you didn't need a different compositor. So the compositors would just use an element in PageMaker, which of course transformed to InDesign. They will use that element, do their composition, and the layout person will now use the page maker to form the pages. The Nigerian newsrooms did not use that. So what happened? Even up till the late 2010s, most media houses were using Corel Draw. You don't use Corel Draw. Now, of course, some media houses went ahead of themselves and they got the Apple systems, which were the original page makeup computers. I can mention The Guardian, and I can also mention This Day. They did use Apple systems, Macintosh, and all of their succeeding machines to do page makeup. Now, it took a long time again to go from there to the new concept of convergence. Media has moved from one single state, and it has now moved to a 360-degree state, meaning that you do print, you do online, and perhaps you do broadcast. Now, online, you don't just do a website, you do podcasts, you do different multimedia streams so that you can get your message out there. The whole concept of this is about storytelling. Now, what the print medium do? They went silent. They didn't innovate. And so the storytelling that should have been carried out by print media or the print medium was now left to the street. The street now told the story, and the print medium went silent. And so that has been the sad story of print medium in Nigeria. But there's a good thing happening right now. Print media has begun to wake up. I'm talking about the print media in Nigeria. It's begun to wake up. And you're beginning to see practitioners, not just of the traditional media space, doing innovations, but you have different practitioners now, especially those who came out of those other organizations that went flat, now trying to come up with things that would, catch the attention of their audience. There is more storytelling going on, and that is the beauty of this disruption that has come on. So yes, the print media has been most affected by this disruption, but they are catching up. Of course, the other mediums, the broadcast, and of course, the out of home, they have their own ways they have had their own ways of innovating. And thanks to cable television, which went satellite way before this new wave of digital media. So the satellite innovation translated to the digital innovation. And so you have the broadcast medium, the broadcast media going from, that satellite thing to digital. It has been seamless. But they still have a lot of catching up to do. But it is something that we are still watching. However, I come back to print. Print has to do a catch up in order for them to be relevant. But there's still a good opportunity for print to stand in the gap. I was going to say that the print has always been the basis for awareness, for civilization. So you can't wish it away, but it has to up its game in order for it to be successful.
What are the challenges traditional media organization faces when it comes to adapting to digital platforms?
Well, I'll name 3 things. 1, legacy mindset. 2, monetization models. And then, of course, the third thing, skills. These are the 3 main challenges of, traditional media. Let me start with the first one, which is legacy mindset. Most of those who are in charge of traditional media, that is the CEOs and the chairmen and all of them, have not been able to move beyond their old way of doing things to the new ways of doing things. Again, you can't blame them. We live in a risk-averse environment. However, innovation comes with risks. And we have to be able to test the waters in order for us to be able to know, what kind of model will fit our operations. Now, here is the good thing. They, whatever it is, whether it is marketing, whether it is broadcasting, whether it is whatever, depends on data. And who are the biggest creators of data? It's the media. The media creates data. However, the media has not been able to take advantage of its own data. The data tells you the story of where people are going, how they are listening to you, or how they are not listening to you. When the leadership of media is not looking at the data, then you have a legacy problem. What then is the story they're going to hand down to those who are coming after them? So legacy mindset, that's the first challenge. Now, the second challenge is monetization models. There have been different levels of change in terms of monetization of our operations. There used to be a time that you had the vendors going around selling newspapers. They would sell newspapers. It used to be at a point in time, 5 kobo. Then the kobos went out of existence, and now it became 5 naira. Now, of course, now you're seeing newspapers being sold for 200 naira and all of that. A lot of the media still think in that sense that it is the circulation that makes the money. Circulation drives money. Yes, it does, but in a different way. The audience model has changed. We have disruptions now that are, technology based. The banks no longer, try to encourage you to pay in cash. They encourage you to do transfers. There are POS transactions that are going on right now, and all of that. And so, in the same way, monetization, you have to be able to create your models where the people are. In what ways can you be able to reach the people faster? And how can they reach you more in a quicker way with their money? And so this is where news managers have to think outside the box and create monetization models that do respond to the changing times, the digital transformation that we're talking about. Now, I come to the third part, and that's the aspect of skills. A lot of people have gone occupationally dead because they have not raised their skills. When, of course, desktop, publishing came in, the compositors chose to retire rather than to transform to desktop publishers. The people who then took up desktop publishing were computer operators who knew nothing about composing pages. And so it took quite a while. And then, of course, that in different ways, these skills have, also, translated to how well do you know your market? How well do you know your audience? You have to have all those, skills that help you to read in a more complex way. You don't just think, as you used to. Different media use different ways of getting money. In some operations, you have paywalls on their websites. So in order for you to be able to access their content, you have to pay some money, and you now get access to their websites. Now, other people, think about advertising. You have banner advertising, you have different forms of advertising. And this advertising is something you can get quickly. The one concept which a lot of us missed is where you now have classified advertising. This is where logistic companies quickly came in and took over. And so rather than you have the traditional media take advantage of people who want to sell, small stuff, you now had the Conga, you now had Jumia, There used to be a time we had, a queue list and all of those people. But this is where we missed it. The traditional media lost that opportunity, and the logistic companies now took over. So I tell you, these are the challenges. We have not changed our mindset. We need to change our mindsets to where, the money is. We have to think the money, where is it? And how are other people making that money that we haven't been able to, access? So I think that's where we need to start going.
You've worked extensively in content creation and marketing communication. So, how has audience behavior changed in digital age, and how are media organizations, how should they respond to it?
The audience has responded to technology. That is simply what has taken place. The audience has responded to the technology that has been made available to them. When we had the newspapers, or when we had the preponderance of newspapers, the audience went with the newspapers. And then the smartphones came in, and the audience saw that they could actually access some of the information that they used to pay for on the newsstands through their smartphones. SMSs started coming in, and then of course, as the transformation, uh, you know, developed wings, started having multimedia. You started having digital transformations in ways that we never imagined. Um, you started having encrypted ways of making phone calls, encrypted ways of sending pictures and videos. And so the audience has responded to the technology that has been made available to them. And the exciting thing is that the audience can now create its own stories, and they can exchange these stories on a platform that other people can access. And the audience can also make money from telling these stories. So that's how the audience has responded, to this digital transformation.
How should the media respond in turn?
The media should respond just as the audience has responded. The media should follow the audience or go ahead of the audience. We shouldn't be laggers, but we should be forerunners. The media has to go ahead of the audience. The media should be able to predict where the audience will go next, or where technology would go next. The good thing is this: we have front runners like the BBC. There's an interesting program on BBC called Click. And when you watch Click, Click always tells you about innovations that are coming up and possible directions that these innovations will take. And if we do follow what this program, just like Technology Times is doing here, if we follow what Click is doing on BBC, we can predict what the next 5 years and 10 years should be. So thank God we also have a Technology Times here who will be able to tell you that in the next 5 years, this is what is going to happen. And this is basically where the media should go. So I'm giving kudos to Technology Times. They are well ahead of their time. Yes, they are a niche part of the media, but they are also in the right space in terms of being able to deal with the data and being able to analyze the data and tell people this is where we should be going. So the rest of the media, that is how they should be thinking. They should be looking at the analytics that are provided by, it's open source. Google provides this analytics. If you want it explained, you pay a little money, and the analytics will tell you exactly what is going on, especially with your own product, how you should improve and what you need to do in order to be able to follow the audience.
From your perspective, are Nigerian media companies doing enough to invest in digital transformation, and what are the major gaps?
They are trying. Let me put it that way, they're trying. But they are not doing enough. And it is not their fault. There is too little money to be able to compete at the level that our international competitors where they are right now. So in order for us to be able to compete in that space, we need to be able to develop the capital. We have to form the capital to be able to invest seriously in the kind of technology that you have going on in the rest of the world. I'll give you an instance. We're talking about artificial intelligence. Now, for artificial intelligence to grow wings here in Africa, you're going to be talking about how to, set up the infrastructure. You need power. You need, systems. You need chips. You need microprocessors. You need all kinds of technology because artificial intelligence runs on technology that is very energy consuming. Most times, when they now talk about climate change, they say, okay, how do we marry the power that artificial intelligence is using versus the risk of environmental degradation? And that's the question, or that's the issue that's going on right now. Now, in order for us to be able to operate at that space, we have to be able to at least begin to think, what infrastructure can we put up at this point in time that will give us that leapfrog into where our competitors are in order for us to be able to take advantage of the current artificial intelligence that's going on, the current trend of artificial intelligence that's going on. Otherwise, we are still going to be telling our stories in the old traditional way. We have to have control of the infrastructure, and that is the challenge. The media has to look for the money. I don't know how you're going to do it. Again, I hear the word convergence. Maybe that's a word, to consider. There's also the thing that the banks did one time ago, and they're still doing, consolidation. Maybe a few people need to come and come together and form clusters in order for them to be able to fund some of these investments in technology that can help the Nigerian media, to reach that place where their competitors are already at. Yeah.
You recently posted about the AI age at the Media Leaders Summit.
Yes.
What stood out for you the most at the event?
What stood out for me the most at the event is this. We cannot ignore AI. AI has come to stay. We can't ignore AI. But the second thing is that we can't get lazy. We have to still tell our stories. We still have to go and do the work. We have to investigate. We have to look for the stories that would help develop our space. It's not just about telling stories, but stories that cause disruptions, stories that help innovation, stories that help people to put their minds in a better place. It's not just about sad tales. There are stories that actually inspire. So let's look for these stories. We have to keep telling these stories. And so this is what I'm taking away. The magic of AI is in storytelling. Without your stories, AI will be dead. So what do? You still have to have the raw material, which are stories. So we need to be there at the storytelling forefront.
How do you think the Nigerian media can use AI smartly without losing the human touch and going against ethics?
Well, they can use AI. AI is very good for organization. AI technology basically helps you to organize. There used to be a time we had the Palm Pilot. There used to be also the time that we had different digital organizers. We still have them. Your phone is now your organizer. And so basically what we need to do to be smart about AI is very simple. Use AI to perfect those things that you have problems with in the newsroom, your editing, your news organization, your story organization. Um, Basically, the skills that that cause you the most headache, use AI to perfect them. But then AI does not have a soul. AI does not have the moral compass that we humans have. So we still need to be very cautious about the use of AI, especially in telling our stories.
You've worked in both government and non-profit organizations. What role do you think policy can play in helping media companies adopt digital tools effectively?
Well, that's an interesting question. Government government can help create the environment for technology to thrive. Anytime I think about government, I think about them creating the enabling environment for people to make money. And so, in terms of policy, I think of how the government can, make, the environment more conducive for people to operate, for businesses to thrive, for media operators to do their work. I know that there is the fear that when there is too much laxity in people expressing their opinion, then you're going to have anarchy. But that is not so correct. We do have we have cultural systems that always put a stopgap, or they put a check, on people in terms of how they should or should not um, express themselves. So if society is already checking itself, there's no need for government to do an overkill of trying to regulate what people say. Then again, we are in a democracy. In a democracy, one of the things that our constitution, tells us is that there has to be freedom of expression. In order for us to be able to be the government, because we are told we are in a democracy. In a democracy, we have government for the people, by the people, and of the people. And if this is supposed to be, then there's no need for anyone to be afraid of anybody saying something which might, be critical of government. Having said that, we're also given to evils like libel and slander. And so, yes, there are laws that already exist that take care of these evils, libel and slander. So back to the question, what should policy be directed at? There is so much that technology can do for us that negates this fear of, how we regulate how people say, or what people are doing. We should rather concentrate on providing that enabling environment for people to operate. That's my view.
There's a lot of misinformation online. What do you think professional media outlets should be doing in order to stay credible and trusted in this space?
One thing that the media needs to be doing is fact checking. And we have to do that very quickly. As soon as there's some form of misinformation that goes out online, the first thing a media organization is supposed to do is to make sure that they counter such misinformation. So that's the role I feel that traditional media needs to be playing right now. Fact checking and making sure that every information that is on the social media or online media space is fact checked, and the right perspective is provided. So I think that for all the misinformation that's out there, Uh, we do have our job well cut out, and that is by doing the investigations and making sure that everything is, or the stories are told in line with exactly how they happened.
Looking ahead, what excites you the most about the future of the media, especially with technologies like AI, data analysis, and personalization gaining ground?
What excites me is that AI needs us. We don't need AI. AI needs us. AI depends upon what we give it. AI needs our stories. That's the exciting thing. And it's exciting to feel needed. I mean, you tell me, if you didn't feel needed, wouldn't you feel, and out of place? We do respond better when we feel needed. AI needs us. So that's the exciting thing. We have a lot of stories in Africa, stories that are, that have not even been told by even 1%. We have so many stories to tell. And what excites me is that we have that opportunity of taking over AI with our stories.
Um, to round it up, what do you have to say about technology times?
We already started. Technology Times is a forerunner in niche journalism, especially in the area of technology. The digital transformation that we're talking about today, um, nobody is capturing the story exactly as it should. But technology times has, taken, the challenge, and they are giving us the perspectives on where technology is, has been, and where it's going. Technology Times is telling the story right now about technology.
Right.
What does Technology Times need to do to be better? I feel that we don't have enough investigative reports. So I do hope and pray that one of the investments that will be made, by Technology Times is in investigative stories, especially concerning digital transformation. The other thing that I feel that Technology Times can do is that the reach of Technology Times, or the scope of Technology Times, is restricted to Lagos and Abuja. I feel that Nigeria as a country is a technology haven that has yet been untapped. If you go to places like Maiduguri or Zaria or down south, Port Harcourt, Enugu, all these places, people are coming up with innovations that have not yet been reported. So I do pray and hope that Technology Times will be able to reach such places in order for us to be able to have stories of, the innovations, the digital innovations, or the technological innovations that are going on there. The third thing that I feel that Technology Times needs to do is that, um, in terms of policy literacy, um, a lot of people in government do not understand what is exactly uh, the, the government should be doing. You ask the question, what should the government do? So I feel that a lot of people in government do not understand what their roles are, or how they should help in advancing the cause of the media in terms of, technology. I feel that Technology Times can give the government and policymakers the perspective that they need in order for our technological space to be conducive for business in Nigeria. The fourth bit, you're already doing it. You're broadening your multimedia offerings, and that is fantastic. So I really pray and hope that that is achieved even deeper and faster than you already are at. So these are my perspectives on Technology Times. But in the main, technology times is in a good place. And in the next few years, you'll be a behemoth. That's my prediction.